The list of favorite movies for the INFJ personality type is long, but many of these films have a special place in our hearts. INFJs are creative and intuitive thinkers who enjoy learning about people and their inner worlds. To learn more about what makes an INFJ tick, check out this list of top 25 movies for INFJs. Number 25, Interstellar. One of the most highly acclaimed films from writer and director Christopher Nolan, Interstellar is a space favorite that tells an epic story. In the near future, Earth's crops are dying out due to climate change, and there's no alternative planet for humans to move to. One man has made it his mission to find a new home for humanity by traveling between dimensions. This movie is one of my favorites because it really tugs at the heartstrings. It also has a nice departure from the action-packed movies that I usually watch. This film has so many layers and emotions, it really, really makes you think. And let's be honest, Matthew McConaughey is enough for me to watch any movie. Number 24, What Dreams May Come. This is one of my favorite movies. The story follows Chris, a successful but unhappy architect who dies in an accident and finds himself unable to enter heaven. He becomes trapped on Earth with no way out or access to heaven until he can get his wife Anne's permission for him to be released from the world. It's a true Robin Williams classic with all the emotions that you can handle. Number 23, Notting Hill. Notting Hill is a nice, lighthearted break from all of the heavier films that I usually watch. The movie follows William Thacker, who's played by Hugh Grant, who falls in love with Anna Scott, played by Julia Roberts, who is an American woman that he meets by chance at his bookshop. She's a famous actress and he's a nerdy bookstore owner. It's a classic story of what would happen if you ever had a chance to fall in love with someone famous. Plus, it's more realistic than some of those happily ever after fantasies. And Hugh Grant, I mean, come on. Number 22, Steel Magnolias. Steel Magnolias is a story of family, love, and bonds between women. It's about what happens when you're looking for someone to lean on during our darkest hour. It follows 6 women: Malin, her daughter Shelby, Truvy, Annelle, Louisa, and Clary. They're all friends who are really more like family. It's emotional in every way possible and tells an incredibly amazing story. And in my opinion, it's one of the best movies that was ever made. Number 21, Catch Me If You Can. This is a true story of deception and adventure. It follows Frank Abagnale Jr., who, before his 19th birthday, successfully conned millions of dollars worth of checks as a Pan Am pilot, doctor, and legal prosecutor. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen because it shows how even when you're not the smartest person, you can still be conniving and brilliant. I love that it keeps you guessing and makes you think. Plus, I'm a huge fan of anything that Tom Hanks does. Number 20, The Greatest Showman. This movie tells the story of P.T. Barnum and his rise from nothing to create the greatest show on earth. It's inspirational, motivational, and it has an amazing soundtrack. This is one of my favorite movies because it reminds me that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. Number 19, Sliding Doors. This is another amazing movie that I highly recommend. It's about a woman who goes on with her day as if nothing had happened, and another where she leaves early to go get coffee and gets into an accident. It's such a brilliant movie because it shows life in 2 different ways based on the tiniest decision. A lot of times we think that one decision will change our lives, but that's not always the case. But sometimes it is. My favorite part of this movie is that their lives are completely different, and yet in both cases, she finds love. It just goes to show you that there can be a silver lining no matter what life throws at us. Sliding Doors teaches us that our future doesn't have to be set. No matter what you do, you can still have the same outcome. Number 18, The Godfather. This movie is so iconic for many reasons. The first one being that it's a classic. It was the most successful film of 1972 and ranks as number 7 on AFI's list of greatest American films ever made. It also has an amazing cast with Marlon Brando and Al Pacino in their iconic roles. And finally, it's a story about the mafia. You can't get any better than that when you're an INFJ. We love anything to do with mobsters or criminal activity in general because we tend to be drawn to situations that are chaotic and dangerous. As long as they have some sense of order behind them, then we love the details of how such things play out. Number 17, Back to the Future. This is probably the most iconic movie of all time. It has an amazing storyline and a great cast, including Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly and Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown. The movie was released in 1985, but it's just not dated at all. In fact, I think that if you haven't seen this film, you should see it ASAP. I've seen this movie so many times, I can pretty much quote the whole thing to you. I love that most of it is set in the 1950s because I just love that time period. Plus, the thought of experiencing a different time period and possibly even seeing your parents as kids, I mean, come on, that's really amazing. Number 16, When Harry Met Sally. INFJs love a movie that can make them cry, and when we say cry, we mean that in the sense of tearing up. The movie When Harry Met Sally is a great example of this, as it is surprisingly touching at times. Number 15, Pirates of the Caribbean. Most of the movies I like are dramatic, emotional triggers, but sometimes I need something totally different, something that will make me laugh. And Pirates of the Caribbean is perfect for that. I love the fantasy feel of the movie, even if it is from Disney. It's an amazing story about a sea captain who is cursed to live the life of a pirate. I love every movie in the series, though the first one is probably my favorite. This movie also features INFJ favorite Johnny Depp. He will always be Captain Jack Sparrow to me. Number 14, Inception. Inception is an INFJ top favorite because it has a lot of depth and meaning. It's about the idea that people can plant ideas in other people's minds by invading their dreams, which sounds both creepy and really cool at the same time. I love how complex this movie is. There were layers upon layers of visuals and thoughts to go over and over, which is perfect for an INFJ. Number 13, Little Women. One of the classic tearjerkers, this INFJ favorite is about the lives of 4 sisters growing up in Civil War America. I love how each sister has her own personality, and they're all very relatable to everyone who's ever been a teenage girl. There are so many life lessons to take away from watching Little Women. It's an excellent movie to watch with your family. Number 12, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I can't help but think of this movie as one of the most underrated INFJ movies. It's about a boy dealing with his first year in high school, and it is wonderfully written from an introverted point of view, something I'm sure many INFJs will appreciate. This movie also has that coming of age feel that explores a lot of things kids go through during their teenage years, like feeling the pressure of high school and struggling with how to fit in. Number 11, While You Were Sleeping. I've always loved the idea that someone could be so in love with me that they would stay with me if I were in a coma. It's such an endearing tale of love and family. Sandra Bullock is absolutely amazing. She reminds me of me a lot, actually. Falling in love with someone you don't know and then somehow making it all work out. Number 10, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. This movie is one of those movies that will stay with you for a lifetime. The film tells a story about a man who starts aging backwards from birth as he grows older and explores how this changes his life over time. This movie has everything: romance, tragedy, comedy, drama, with an ending that leaves you both happy and sad at the same time. Plus, Brad Pitt. Number 9, Good Will Hunting. Though tragic in many respects, it's also an inspiring story about someone overcoming his own fears and limitations to reach for the stars, albeit not without first working on himself. Classic INFJ. Number 8, Shutter Island. This is a psychological thriller film directed by Martin Scorsese. I love all of his movies. The INFJ narrator, Teddy Daniels, is always on the quest for truth. He wants to know what's real and what isn't, which makes him a natural skeptic who needs all of the available facts in order to come up with an accurate conclusion. And it doesn't hurt that he also has a generous dose of intuition as well. You have no idea what's going on until the very end, which makes it a winner in my book. Number 7, Breakfast at Tiffanys. This is the story of Holly Golightly, a beautiful New York socialite who wants to find true love. I'd say that this movie has some elements in it that hit close to home for INFJ personality types, complexity and depth, which we're all about, as well as introspection and self-examination. This film is a classic in every way and a must-see for every INFJ. Number 6, The Pursuit of Happiness. The Pursuit of Happiness is an amazing movie about what you can accomplish if you work hard enough. This movie is particularly close to INFJ hearts because it shows that hard work can take you a long way, which we know from experience. This film really goes deep into the complexities of life and what can happen that's out of your control, something most INFJs spend their lives examining. Number 5, You've Got Mail. You've Got Mail is a movie about the complexity of relationships. INFJs are all about long-term committed love, and that's exactly what this film delivers. It also shows how technology has changed communication over time in a way that will speak to any INFJ who is still looking for love. The characters take risks for their relationship, which we know that INFJs will always do because they're all about going the distance. This is one of those movies with a strong female protagonist, which we know appeals to our type. It also has some really adorable romantic moments that make us melt. Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan are completely amazing together as well. You've Got Mail has been ranked as an INFJ favorite for good reason. It's definitely my favorite movie, probably of all time. Number 4, Age of Adeline. The INFJ has a deep appreciation for the formality and seriousness of this movie. It takes place in a world where society is obsessed with age, but Adeline doesn't care about being old. She just wants to live her life. And I can't imagine anyone classier than Della. I love her demeanor and her wardrobe. If there was ever a character that I wanted to embody, it's definitely her. Number 3, Sense and Sensibility. Sense and Sensibility is an enduring classic that follows a pair of sisters, Eleanor and Marianne Dashwood, living in England. The film tells the story of their family's ruin after being manipulated by John Middleton. Heart-wrenching at times, but also humorous, this movie captures the complicated emotional life of women in the 19th century. Number 2, Pride and Prejudice. The 2005 adaptation of the Jane Austen novel Pride and Prejudice is a modern classic. The film follows the story of Elizabeth Bennet, played by Keira Knightley, as she deals with issues such as class snobbery and sexism in 19th century English society. It also depicts her relationship with the wealthy and cultivated Mr. Darcy, a classic love novel if ever there was one. This movie is perfect for INFJs who enjoy movies with romance or a social commentary about the 19th century English society. And number 1, The Truman Show. This 1998 blockbuster, directed by Peter Weir and starring Jim Carrey in the title role, is certainly at the top of the list of INFJ favorite movies. Truman Burbank unwittingly lives his entire life inside a huge television studio where all aspects of his existence are controlled by those around him. The movie warns us to question who controls our every move, something that occupies the mind of every INFJ from time to time. This movie is perfect as it shows the importance of questioning those in power and who is calling the shots. Sometimes as INFJs, we feel like we are living our lives like Truman in a glass bubble on display. That's the part of the movie that fascinates me. Though it's important to realize that those who were watching him weren't judging him as much as they were in love with him and cheering him on. An important lesson for us, for sure. That's it for INFJ movies. What about you? What's your favorite movie? I would love to hear it. Make sure that you leave it in the comments for us.
So you just watched that video, and I'm sure you enjoyed it. If you want some more amazing information about INFJs, check out these videos right now. I'll see you there.